Ah, South Africa, a country with real problems and ministries that do absolutely nothing. Our government is like a family WhatsApp group. Too many people, too much talking, and nobody actually solving problems. So today, we're ranking the 6 most useless ministries, departments that are basically expensive furniture in the government office. And stick around, because at the end, we're also tackling the biggest scam of all, deputy ministers. If you ever wondered where your tax money disappears, this is where it goes. Number 6, the minister in the presidency. This minister is supposed to coordinate government plans, but last time I checked, that's literally the president's job. It's like hiring someone to remind you to breathe. What's worse, they've got multiple ministers in the presidency, so now we're paying extra salaries for people to sit around and repeat what the president says. If we removed this ministry tomorrow, would South Africa collapse? No. Would our budget look better? Absolutely. Would the minister finally have to start working for a living? Well, shame. Number 5, Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. This department sounds like it should be important, but it's basically a PR firm. They hold conferences, make posters, and give motivational speeches. But when it comes to actual work, MIA. Missing in action. Tell me, have you ever heard of a struggling youth or disabled person who got direct help from this department? No? Exactly. Instead of wasting money on this, let's just strengthen social development and basic education. Because right now, this department is like an expensive handbag. Looks fancy, but serves no real purpose. Number 4, Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. Ah yes, the department that thought spending 22 million rands on a useless flag was a good idea. This department exists to support sports and the arts. But fun fact, sports and arts are surviving without them. Private sponsors fund sports teams, record labels, support musicians, and artists hustle their way to the top. This department is just a middleman taking a cut while doing nothing, like that one cousin who organizes a family reunion but expects everyone else to bring the food and drinks. Number 3, Department of Public Enterprises. This one is the government's version of a failed entrepreneur. They oversee Eskom, Transnet, and SAA, aka the biggest disasters in South Africa. Seriously, do we need an entire ministry just to mismanage state-owned companies? If Eskom is failing, shouldn't energy handle it? If Transnet is a mess, shouldn't transport take over? Instead, we're paying a minister to sit around and watch the country sink like the Titanic. The only difference? At least the Titanic had working lights. Number 2, Department of Small Business Development. This department exists to support small businesses, but have you ever met a small business owner who actually got support? Exactly. Starting a business in South Africa means struggling with red tape, high costs, and zero government help. Instead of funding this pointless department, let's just make it easier for people to register businesses and get loans. Because right now, this ministry is the equivalent of a motivational speaker that tells you to believe in yourself, but never actually gives you real advice. Number 1, Department of Traditional Affairs. Congratulations, we have a winner, the most useless ministry in South Africa. Look, I respect traditional leaders, but do we really need an entire government department just to acknowledge that kings and chiefs exist? We already have local government structures. Why not integrate traditional leadership into that? Instead, we're funding a whole ministry where people sit in fancy offices discussing things that could be handled in a WhatsApp group. If we keep this up, we might as well introduce a Ministry of Ancestral Affairs so we can pay people to communicate with our great-grandfathers too. Before we wrap up, let's talk about the biggest scam of all, deputy ministers. We have over 30 deputy ministers in this country. For what? Each of them earns millions in salaries, drives expensive government cars, and has office staff, all while doing absolutely nothing. Their excuse? We assist the ministers. But guess what? Every department already has a Director General, DG, who does all the real work. Deputy ministers are just there for vibes, like a backup dancer who gets paid more than the lead singer. South Africa could save billions by scrapping deputy ministers altogether. It's time to cut the fat, because right now we're feeding too many people who aren't cooking anything. So there you have it. 6 ministries we should delete from the budget in 2025. Plus, let's finally admit that deputy ministers are just expensive furniture. If we're serious about fixing South Africa, we need to start at the top. Because if we cut these useless departments and positions, we could actually afford things that matter, like fixing Eskom, improving schools, and maybe, just maybe, paying nurses and teachers what they deserve.